So tonight we're here about LCAP. LCAP, like all things education, lots of acronyms. We have the first one, which is the Local Control Funding Formula, LCFF. That was the legislation that created the LCAP, changed a little bit about the funding. The LCAP itself is the Local Control and Accountability Plan. This is the plan that we develop along with all of our stakeholders to decide what we need to do for our students. African American student group will be represented by AA in the data. HISP will be our Hispanic student group. We have our white student group. These are our three largest student groups. About 77% Hispanic for the district, somewhere between 10 and 12%, depending on the year, African American. And then our white student group's about 5%, 4 to 5. Low income student group, English learner student group, and foster youth student group are the three student groups specifically called out for services in the LCAP. We also do include data about our students with disabilities and our homeless students. So as I said, LCFF was started to help streamline funding in California. Previously, we had base revenue limits, which was every student generated a single amount of money. The funny thing is that every district had a different amount of money that each student generated. In addition to the base, there was categorical programs, so these small pots of money that might be used for different things. So maybe a reading program or a library. Gardens was one of them. So the problem is it was a small amount of money, kind of seed money to get started. And if your district didn't have the funds to fully develop that program, your district most likely would not accept those funds, and so they would go unused. What happened with LCFF is we moved all those funds together, and then all districts received the same amount in the base grant for every student in the district. And for those districts that have low income, foster youth, and English learners, there's an additional amount. And then for those districts that have more than 55%, there's a concentration grant. And what's much different is now as a community, we get to decide how we're spending these funds. So do we need more social emotional? Do we need counselors, right? We'll talk about that more as we get into tonight. The base grant is kind of the general funding just to keep the lights on and 99% of all the salaries of the people in the district, right? Schools really run on people, not programs. So now with the LCFF, we have the base grant, supplemental and concentration, like I said, and then the LCAP, which is a plan. Again, we've been doing this for about 10 years now. If this is your first year, that's cool. Happy to have you. So with this freedom to spend the money, the state did want to make sure that districts and communities made sure that they had their priorities straight. And so they wanted to make sure we looked at 8 different areas. First, of course, is pupil achievement. This is things like making sure that they do well on state assessments, English and math, science, right? The English language proficiency exam for our English learners, whether they graduate with A through G, which is the University of California and Cal State minimum entry requirements for courses, whether they finish a CTE pathway, passing advanced placement exams, things like that. So student achievement, of course, still a priority. Student engagement. Student engagement is looking at things like attendance, dropout rates, graduation rates. Parental involvement. How does the district engage the families in being equal partners in the education of the students? Course access, making sure that students have a broad course of study that includes all the different areas, not just English and math. What had happened with the old system, right? We did a lot of testing in English and math, and guess what? Students got a lot of classes in English and math. Oftentimes a middle school or a high school student would have 2 English or 2 math courses if they had fallen behind. And so now we're really focused on making sure that that doesn't happen, that students have access to a broad course, lots of VAPA, visual and performing arts, CTE, science, engineering. Common Core state standards. If you're not familiar, these are the standards that came into effect about 10 years ago, right around the same time as LCFF. They weren't directly connected, but because they were happening at the same time, the state wanted to make sure that we would move towards those, and we have completely done that. Basic services, making sure that the teachers are credentialed, that the books are there, that the facilities are all in good repair. Having a school climate that's inviting to students, right? Lower suspension rates, low expulsion rates, teachers and parent and family and student surveys of connectedness to the school. And then of course, it's local control. So one other priority is anything else you want. And so here we focus a lot on college readiness metrics, early reading, early literacy, and academic grades oftentimes. Stakeholders who are involved in this process. We have our school board, of course, the elected school board who represents the community. Our staff, teachers, custodians, aides, IT personnel, everybody, food services, administration, anybody in the district is involved in this process. Career technical education really works with the community and business partners to find out what they need from our students and what they expect in graduates. Our Val Verde Teachers Association and the California School Employees Association, who represent our employees. The students, every year we go out and talk to students. We get surveys from students to find out what their perception and what their reality of what we are trying to implement and how that's affecting them. And then we have several different parent groups that we do specifically around different populations. And then we do these kind of meetings as well. We have community meetings. We gather input all year, every year, constantly, it seems like, which is awesome. Everything from the school level with school site councils and LPACs to the district level with the ELAC and Parent Advisory Committee, African American Community Circle, board meetings, all those types of things. We have what we write the LCAP. We actually have it from year to year now written. Then we come out to the community like this, tell them what we're doing, tell them what we're thinking we heard from the community and what we're planning to do in the coming year. Hear about that, make revisions, and then we'll take it to the board in June along with the budget. So that's much different than previously. The budget and the outcomes for students were always disconnected. Now they're closely connected. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll either answer them as we go, or if I feel like it'll come up, I'll answer it at the end. And if you ever think of something, maybe before we or after we conclude tonight, you can always email me. I'll throw that in the chat right now. This presentation is also available online at our website, www.valverde.edu/, whoops, I missed it. LCAP. Put that in the chat as well if you want to download it, view it at your leisure. We're also recording this evening's event, and so you'll be able to replay that to help you get to sleep. All right, so where we're at with the LCAP, go over some of the things that we're doing and share that with you tonight. College and career ready, we have 4 goals. The first one is college and career ready, right? When students leave Val Verde, we want them to be ready for life after 12th grade, however they choose, whether it be college, whether it be career, right? It's college and career ready. It's what we're achieving or striving for and hopefully achieving. Parent engagement, right? Making sure that we reach out to families, share information with them. A lot of educationese, a lot of technical stuff. We try to break down. If this isn't your everyday job, it's not difficult to understand. It's just very specialized, right? And so we try to do our best to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and has a place where they can go to ask questions if they do have any issues. Positive school climate, making sure kids want to come to school, adults want to come to school, right? See each other, building those communities of learning. And then always helps to have nice modern facilities that are clean, well-maintained, lots of technology. And so that's a priority with goal 4. So looking at some of the things that are in the LCAP, again, the entire plan is like 100-something pages long. So I'm going to hit some highlights. If you ever want like personal one-on-one, we can go line by line if you like. I have to do it anyway, so if somebody wants to join me, appreciate it. We do have bilingual staff at all of our school sites. We have special education bilingual clerks as well. Make sure that our English learner parents are well communicated with and always have somebody. The bilingual staff at the schools also kind of does serve at the elementary schools most often as like a receptionist position prior to the LCAP and putting these positions in place. Your attendance tech, your principal secretary, and the health tech all had to kind of swap with the front desk duties during the day. And so having that dedicated staff has really made it a more inviting place, a more easily accessible place for our parents to get information. Workshops for parents through the Family Engagement Center, making sure that during non-COVID years when we can have volunteers and field trips, that parents are easily accessible to those opportunities by having no-cost fingerprinting, making sure that meetings are accessible for families by having child supervision wherever we can, an extra group of families and community members that we try to bring together to the African American Community Circle. As far as making school more engaging, right? Depending on how old you are, school might have been a very sit and get kind of experience. No longer is what's going on in our classrooms. One of the ways we do that is through additional funds for our schools. So our schools receive LCAP dollars and they, through their school site council, allocate those funds for different things that they need, right? So we use that same idea of the local level knows best, right? So the district does lots of things, but then we give money to the sites to decide how it would most impact their community. We have a director of STEAM who helps facilitate lots of cool stuff in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. The big idea is to integrate those things, right? Projects that have all the different areas, or at least several of the different areas. But he also oversees kind of each one of them individually as well. One of them being VAPA, Visual and Performing Arts. We have a teacher on special assignment, Allison Huntsman, who does an awesome job of helping our visual and performing arts. That's your ceramics class, photography class, choir, band, theater, right? Show choir, all those programs that engage students in elementary through high school. Robotics is big throughout the district, of course. We have extra elementary and music teachers and 2 extra middle school choir teachers through LCAP. Of course, all these great music programs require instruments. And so we put all that we can behind additional musical instruments for students so that everybody can participate. We have our dual language immersion classes. This is classes starting in kindergarten. Students learn 90% in Spanish and 10% in English, with the idea that they'll be fully bilingual by the time they graduate from high school. And each year, the ratio gets closer and closer to 50-50. I believe it's 6th or 7th grade, it hits 50-50. And so half their classes are in English, half their classes are in Spanish. Super program. Other districts, depending on the community, will have dual language programs in other languages, but Spanish is the one we have. Chromebooks, all the Chromebooks the kids get are funded through LCAP. We have reduced class sizes. I know sometimes it's hard to believe, but prior to LCAP, our class sizes were actually larger. We also have combination classes that we have reduced by adding teachers in 4th grade and 5th grade, or sorry, K through 3rd grade. Dual enrollment courses. If you're not a high school parent, but you're going to be there eventually, dual enrollment's super important to know about. Dual enrollment is about kids being able to take high school classes and get college credits. So you finish an English class in your junior year and you already have college credits. Another kind of college high school hybrid is the middle college program. This one is actually on Moreno Valley College's campus. Students take 2 courses with high school teachers at the campus. They then take all their other classes with college students in the regular college classes with college professors. Starting credits for college, it's usually your junior year. I think some sophomores may be in dual language or dual enrollment, but usually is junior. Middle college program is definitely starting in the junior year. The bilingual dual enrollment classes. Triple Crown is K through 5 now. That's where we started. Those actual first kindergartens, proud to say, are now at Sierra Vista in 6th grade. We also just started at Mead Valley Elementary School, the dual language classes. So you would ask for a transfer. If those aren't your home schools, you can ask for a transfer into the DLI program. They are currently recruiting. If you email me, I can get you in touch with the dual language program and get you set on that pathway. Social emotional well-being for our students is a big priority. It's even bigger now coming through the pandemic. Bully prevention programs. Second step is what we use. We started with that at the middle schools two or 3 years ago. This year at the elementary schools, we saw that it was excellent, and so we expanded it all the way down to kinder this year. Second step. We have positive behavior intervention and supports across the district. This is looking at ensuring that our students and staff all know what the appropriate behaviors are, right? Sometimes kids don't even know why they got in trouble. So this is looking at making sure that everybody knows what the rules are, because rules are different places, right? You don't act the same way on a playground as you do in the library, as you do in the cafeteria, in the classroom, at home. And so just coming to that common understanding, we've seen a tremendous decrease in our behaviors using this idea. Intervention counselors at the high schools. So in addition to school counselors that do a lot of academic and guidance work, we have intervention counselors who help out with that, but they also help out with any kind of crisis situations, students in need, academic need, or emotional need. Then we'll also have intervention therapists at the elementary schools. We have after-school sports programs at elementary and middle school. This year, elementary is just getting ready though for its first soccer tournament, which is awesome. They are doing it in a different format this year. I think it's only 6 schools at a time, so they're going to do it over 2 days to try and reduce the number of people at one place. But super fun to know that we're finally getting back to some pre-pandemic kinds of activities. Jumpstart program is looking at transition grades. So 5th graders going into 6th grade, 8th graders going into 9th grade. Oftentimes, students who maybe weren't completely successful in their prior school. This program looks to get them engaged at the end of the school year or the beginning of the school year before everybody shows up, so that they feel a part of the school and feel like they know what's going on and can be successful. This summer, look for lots of additional summer programs, kind of like last year. We're trying to do a big thing in June, like a summer camp for K through 6th grade students. That'll be held at the elementary schools each. So if your students in K through 5 now, we'll have that at their elementary school during the summer. At least that's the plan tentatively right now. More details to come. New this year, something that we've been wanting to do for multiple years now, but the funding just really hasn't been there, is elementary counselors. These are now at each of the elementary schools. Additional counseling therapists at the middle and high schools. So most of our larger schools got 2, and then some of the 2 smaller schools only received 1, but big help there to try and provide services over and supports over suspensions, right? Trying to get ahead of the student behaviors before they happen in order to reduce our suspensions. Positive behavior intervention supports elementary teachers. These are full-time release teachers that are there to support the campuses in developing their programs. Employees get lots of support as well. This year, we haven't done as much professional development like we normally would, where they go to conferences and because we're trying to keep them at school and in classrooms, but we've had after school events where they can participate online. We do have 6 days of professional development outside of student days as well. A lot of focus on social emotional learning, not only for the adult, right? Being able to fully participate, come to school and leave, not leave, but be okay with whatever might be going on in their life, right? So that they can help support students in their social emotional learning development. Common Core professional development, that's really around the standards. English learner professional development. For our English learner students, we want to make sure that all of our teachers are up to date on the most effective latest strategies for reaching those students and helping them develop to be bilingual students. Teacher techs, tons of technology, as I said, in the district. These are teachers, they're full-time teachers that also help out after school, during lunch, during staff meetings to either help support our staff in using new technology or just troubleshoot the technology that maybe is not working today, right? Technology is great until it doesn't work. And so super appreciative of these staff members who go above and beyond to make sure that we know how to do all the cool stuff and also help us fix it when it doesn't work. Culturally responsive training, making sure that we're fully embracing in a positive way students' culture and bringing it into the classroom whenever we can. We used to have math coaches at the high school. We've now brought those to the district office to try something different. Our math hasn't moved as much as we would like, and so trying to affect that in a different way. Our STEAM TOSA is a relatively new position. This is a teacher on special assignment, similar to our VAPA position, who's really out there working with teachers to develop STEAM lessons and fully utilize all those beautiful STEAM labs that we've built. We have foster youth professional development. A lot of things are different for foster youth at the high school when they transition. Their grad rate or their graduation requirements can be different. And so we want to make sure that we're prepared for that and can support them with all the uniqueness of their situation. Smarter Balance is the testing system. So we got to make sure the teachers know the test so that they can help the students be prepared for it. And then we do all kinds of professional development for classified employees wherever it's necessary for their job. See a question about why so many therapists? Is there behavioral issues? It's gotten much better over the past 10 years. Our suspension rates have gone way down. But we still do have a relatively high, about 5% of students each year that are suspended. Of course, during the pandemic, nobody was suspended last year. And the previous year, only half a year of students on campus, our rates were a little lower, so they can't really compare. But to your point, yeah, from the community, from parents, from students, a lot of need for somebody there to just help them through issues of regular years and then throughout coming out of the pandemic. We actually, the new ones we call restorative practitioners, they're really helping to bring a new kind of system of addressing discipline issues, right? So restorative practices is kind of the new thing, and they help support that. What's your child's best interest? Where can they be attending? Yeah, so, right, we have 20,000 students. Every one of them is pretty unique. And so there's lots of things that we're doing. Some may or may not address your situation. Hopefully there is something that addresses your situation. Some of the other things might be there for other students. Attendance is super important. This year, obviously, we have a little different message than in a normal year, but showing up to learn is critical. If you're a parent of a new student, right, coming in, early grades, kinder, we would love them to know their letters, know their letter sounds, know numbers, right? Reading to the kids when they're young is super helpful. Being there to work with your teacher is really one of the best things you can do. Just letting them know that I know I get a lot, you send a lot of emails, but I do read them. I'm here. Let me know what you see in my child. If you feel like you see something in your child that's not working at school, making sure that the teacher knows that you share with the teacher any ideas you have to maybe help the teacher and the student work together. It's also super helpful. Facilities wise, let's see one more. Best interest of kids, if teachers made teaching material accessible to parents. Yeah, so Google Classroom and Aries. So Aries is the student information system. That's the gradebook system we use. Attendance, if you have your parent portal, if you need to get connected with that, that's super helpful. You're going to want to ask the staff at the school, how do I get connected to the parent portal for Aries? That'll help you see attendance, grades, behavior incidents. The other one for communication is Parent Square. That's an app that you can download. We also use that to send the emails and texts. Some of the elementary schools, most of the elementary schools also use Class Dojo. Sometimes you can get access to the students or the teacher's Google Classroom as well. So you can ask a teacher. Yeah, you can ask, especially at the elementary, ask the teacher for access, or if they can email you, maybe the week's lessons. You can definitely find out what the teacher is teaching. That's totally within your rights as a parent. Office security upgrades, as far as improving facilities, when you walk into an office, you'll now see that it's more like a bank teller, right? With the glass and the speaker, maybe not as inviting as the previous offices, but definitely more secure. That was a priority of the community 5-6 years ago when we did that. Refurbishing some restrooms and locker rooms that were in desperate need at the very beginning. Most of what we do for facilities is not through LCAP in those kinds of big construction projects. Rancho Verde just had their refurbishment, their modernization project. Vista Verde starts this summer, I believe. Some of our elementary schools as well. So you'll see those bigger projects. Those are either bond money, right, through the community bond sales, or through modernization funds. So I forget how many years, the state provides districts with some funding to help redo infrastructure, telephone, plumbing, electrical, and then we pretty up the schools, make them look as good as the brand new schools like Orange Vista. Custodial equipment, groundskeeping equipment we've added, STEAM labs at every elementary and middle school, CTE facilities at the high schools, gardens. Actually, we're now starting to refurbish gardens a lot. This year, something new, something we've never been able to do, along with the counselors, elementary assistant principals, therapists, PBIS teachers, we were also able to add additional custodians to the staff to help out at those largest of schools, making sure everything's really on point and clean. How can I access any website if I'm blind? I know there's screen readers. If you email me, I will definitely put you in touch with and make sure that you have access. GOWEN valverde.edu. That's VALVERDE.edu. Office security upgrades. I talked about that one. Sorry. Here we go. Some of the cool stuff, right? New STEAM labs, new library facilities, gardens, CTE facilities. So in the center here, we have the drones. That's at Orange Vista. We have our brand new greenhouse over at Citrus Hill, just getting finished up. They're going to do aquaponics. This is some of the aquaponic vegetables that they grow there. Here's a new garden that went in this summer. This is an old CTE classroom at Rancho Verde that we'll be refurbishing. A newer library that we did at Rancho, the STEAM lab over at Lakeside, got all done up this year. COVID stuff, I'm totally gonna try to hit at the end. I know that's a big deal right now. Tonight's not the COVID, but we definitely want to make sure that everybody is up and informed on all the new procedures that went out today. So email me if I don't answer your question tonight about COVID, and I'll get you in touch with the proper people about COVID related stuff. So the California dashboard is the state's accountability system they put in place with the LCAP. We got 3 years of it, and then with the pandemic, most of the stuff has not been able to continue. They haven't put out a dashboard now for 2 years, but I'll quickly explain it and then just kind of grind through it. So you'll see colors. Well, colors are pretty easy to understand, right? Blue is good, green is good, yellow is, oh, okay, maybe. Orange is not as good, and red is bad. But how do we get those colors? So it's two pieces. We have a status and a change. Status, graduation rates, 95%. Most years, this past year, we were at 91%, which was not good, but normally we're at about 95% and we maintain it. So being at a high level and maintaining that high level, you're blue. You could also be blue if you were at a slightly lower level, maybe 91%, but had gained 3 or 4 percentage points, right? So you're really moving in the right direction and you're kind of high. Maybe you're green if you're at 85% and you gained 3 points, or 85 and you went to 88, right? Or 81, 85 and you went to 86 or 87, right? You didn't grow a lot, but it's going in the right direction. Yellow is going to be a lot of times you're in the middle of the status, like where you would want to be, and you're also not really moving. Orange is you're going backwards. Red is you're really going backwards, or you're just really, really low. Most of the time you're not very high and you went backwards. So you can see our chronic absenteeism. This is students who miss 10% or more of the school year. It's about 18 days in a normal school year. Our rate is kind of in the middle, but we went backwards in 2019. And so that's an orange indicator. So one district might have an orange and have actually a higher, well, in chronic absenteeism, you would want a lower rate, right? So a district next door might have a yellow, but they have a higher rate because they were going in the right direction though. So the colors are super helpful, but take some explaining. These next slides are all of the different groups in each of these metrics. Again, I would have you go to our website or the California School dashboard to get more information on that. Or as always, I'm just going to say email me. Reading by third grade, super important in our district. Research shows that students that are on track reading by third grade tend to graduate and successfully and matriculate out of the system at a higher rate. So making sure that that's an early indicator that we can hit and help students. Of course, some students don't make it by third grade, but that's okay. It's kind of funny that education is set up by age.
And so we expect everybody by a certain age to be able to do certain things. It's just not the way it works, right? But that is the system we have. And so we do have steps in place to work with students throughout the grades until they are proficient. But the goal is 3rd grade. This is looking at some comparable data for the beginning of the year. So this is every year at the beginning, we test our 3rd graders coming in to see what % are reading at grade level. You can see in previous years, we were right around 60% for all students. That's the light blue line here. In 2021, this year, we were at 48%. So we lost quite a bit of ground during the pandemic the last 2 years. We just got test scores done this year, or for this mid-year. We haven't quite analyzed those yet. We'll get on that right away. This is the test in English. These are looking at what the goal is to be at 30 points above standard. Our students started at 2016-17 school year at 0, and we moved up to 12. Again, we haven't tested since 2018-19. So things were moving in the right direction. We were getting closer to where we were supposed to be, which is super positive. Math, we're supposed to be at 0. And you can see we only had 5 points of growth over the 3 years. So this is what I was talking about with our math teachers and math TOSAs, trying to really get a handle on this new math. Not new math, but the way we assess it is definitely new. A lot of reading, a lot of project-based questions. And so really being able to work with teachers and students on those new assessments, understanding why 2 + 2, right? The question assumes that you know that 2 + 2 is 4. It asks why. How do you know? Suspension rate, as I was mentioning earlier, this is one of the areas that we were at about 9% of our students being suspended in 11-12 school year. This past full school year in 2018-19, we were about 5%, 4.8%. You can see for our foster youth, our African-American and students with disabilities, those rates are much higher. They have been in decline, which is great, but we did notice that kind of everything was leveling off right here around 4 or 5%. And so we felt like we needed to do something different. We changed a lot of the procedures and policies around who got suspended, when they got suspended, really got it down to basically fighting, weapons on campus, drugs, right? Very serious offenses. It used to be you got suspended for maybe just saying the wrong word, not even necessarily to somebody, just saying it, you could be suspended. And so we've taken care of a lot of that kind of thing in policies, procedures, and with positive behavior intervention supports, but we still do see that students are being suspended mostly for fights and for substances at the middle schools and high schools. Elementary, hardly anybody is suspended anymore. But that's where we're coming up with the therapists to try and put in supports for those students who get into fights year after year, get suspended year after year, students who are intoxicated on campus year after year, trying to prevent that, stop that. Let's see, actively involved in child school volunteers, these programs during COVID-19. Yeah, right now, volunteers, we can't have those on campus. We do have reading tutor positions. If you have free time that you can be at school, we'll actually pay you to volunteer. I mean, it's not volunteering at that point, right? It's a job. Check in with your elementary school. Your nearest elementary school is looking for reading tutors. Those are extra adults that come on for a couple hours every day and help out in the classrooms. Out of our control, but teachers that weren't happy with their paychecks or their lifestyle would often interfere with their job and affect teaching skills. How can a public school be better when it comes to safety and education for our children? Yeah, no, that's where we're working with teachers on their social emotional well-being, right? That they can appropriately deal with their emotions, appropriately deal with children's emotions, de-escalate in some things, right? Back in the day, a kid got mad, a teacher got madder, right? And then the kid did something and we kicked him out of school. Nowadays, we would try to have that teacher de-escalate, calm the student down, have that other staff, right? We have positive behavior interventions teachers, we have our assistant principals at the elementary, we have our counselors, extra counselors, therapists, right? All those kinds of staff to help de-escalate that and help the student deal with their emotions in an appropriate way and not disrupt the classroom so the teacher can continue with their lessons, right? Our teachers do let us know that they could always do better, and that would make things easier and they'd be more calm if they had bigger paychecks. We do try to accommodate that most years. We take care of that with our unions. Classified as well. Graduation rate, you can see up until 2020, we're super proud. Higher than the state by almost 10 points, higher than the county by 5 points. But the pandemic really took a hit on our graduation rate this last year. We didn't do some of the reductions in credit requirements that some other districts did earlier on. We didn't do what's called a grade validation. And so we see that maybe that hurt us a bit. We were hoping that we would be able to still support our students, but I think it validates what we do in person with all the supports we give students to keep the rates super high. Here it is for all of our different student groups. You can see our foster youth, even through the pandemic, has done well. It is a small group, of course. And so it will have wild swings. I don't want to, next year could easily go down 20 points if one student didn't graduate. So we're always looking out though for our students with disabilities. Our English learners, we did see a dramatic impact of the pandemic on them. African-American students were one of the groups that stayed level. Low-income students followed with our Hispanic. White students also stayed level at about 89%. A through G requirement for my elementary and middle school parents. Probably don't know about this, maybe even the freshmen, but you should be hearing about it if you're a freshman parent. A through G is the minimum requirements for entry into Cal State and University of California systems, the two public college systems here in California. And so in order to just be minimally qualified, you have to pass a certain number of classes in each of the A through G subject areas. So each one of those is a different subject area. A is history, B is English. I don't remember the rest. So 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of science, 3 years preferred. C or better in all of those courses. You can see again here, well above state and county averages, really peaking in 2018-19 before the pandemic. We've definitely taken a hit here again. I think a testament to all the things we do when kids are at school and we can engage with them when they know they have a caring adult here at school to support them with those courses. You can see most of our student groups, again, peaking in 2018-19, all very closely clustered, not too many gaps there, except for our English learners and students with disabilities. A lot of this is access issues, right? English learners have to take an additional course in high school, and so don't always have access to maybe a fine art. We're looking at changing some of the things we do to ensure that they do have more access and can be more successful on their journey to A through G. Students with disabilities, we are trying to get more inclusive with our coursework and our students being in more mainstream courses with supports so that we can raise that as well. CTE completion. So this is career technical education. Again, for my high school parents, you probably know, middle and elementary school, get ready to know your kids are doing it. They just don't call it CTE yet. So this is looking at skills and careers that students can have after high school. Not necessarily without a college degree, but sometimes, right out of school, finishing a pathway completion, We do OSHA certifications, we have construction, we have, like we said, the drone pilot's now a job, right? It used to be just racing RC cars around. Now you're a drone pilot and it pays pretty well. So you can see we had tremendous growth over the last few years that continued throughout the pandemic, which was awesome to see. Let's see. Oops. Miss Claudia, I give you a minute to translate the one comment. Spanish is primarily in middle and high school, but my own edification option elementary. So Nate, if you would like to, if they're elementary students still, I would put you in touch with our bilingual or dual language immersion program. Not completely sure, depends on what grade your student's in. Reach out to me, email me, Nate, and I will get you information on how you can access those dual language at elementary. Our middle schools do have Spanish courses now, so they can start their Spanish coursework early. All right. Oh, Miss Claudia, I don't have my translation on. Oh, how do I get to that? Can you? It's gonna be okay. We got this. I'm going to. My student's a freshman. I like how they work with my son. Oh, thank you for the compliment. All right. Dual immersion, but my kids all qualify, so that's fine. That is disappointing. I'm sorry that your kids didn't qualify for that, but we do offer middle school Spanish. All right, college and career readiness. Again, this indicator, not college, not career, but both, right? And so because of no testing, they weren't able to calculate it this year for our class of 2021 that just graduated. But you can see even through the pandemic, small drop a small drop, but we did start to increase primarily because of that CTE completion rate. Most of our groups together, our African-American students do tend to be a little lower. We did see the uptick though with the increase in CTE participation, which was encouraging. Foster youth, getting them involved. A lot of times they come late to high school, transferring a lot. And so we've streamlined our CTE programs to hopefully accommodate more of them. English learners starting to get into more CTE programs as well. And then our students with disabilities is another area that we need to work on, getting more access for them. College going rates, so students entering college after graduating high school. You can see we did again peak in 2018-19. We were feeling pretty good going into 19-20 school year, and then COVID. So during the pandemic, you can see all student groups dropped. African Americans were particularly affected in this last year. Students with disabilities, English learners, still looking to try and get them access to those universities, and also the community college system. Merino Valley now is free for the first year. So that's where a lot of our students will go. Attendance rates this year, I'm sure it's no surprise. We don't even include last year because it was taken so different with attendance, but through the first semester, so the first 90 days of school, large drop, right? 4% less students coming to school on a daily basis, but it is what it is. Trying to get back. We want everybody to be safe and healthy, and just is what it is. Family Engagement Center, again, peaking in 18-19, been a struggle to have as many events, especially large events. Super excited that you're here tonight with us. We did have a pretty significant number of participants in the first part of the year. And so we're hoping that as we finish this 21-22 school year, we'll be higher than we were last year. Last few slides here, all about funding. Get you out right at 7 o'clock, hopefully. So for next year we're looking at $239 million in the district through the state funding. We do receive some extra federal funds, small portion. We also have been receiving some additional COVID-related funds, but the general operating budget most years is around $239 million for most of the general ed kind of programs. Bulk of that is that base grant we talked about, 73%. And then tonight, all the things that I've been speaking to is this 27% of supplemental and concentration grant, about $64 million we're anticipating next year. It is based on our English learners, low income and foster youth. It specifically calls out that we need to provide all those services for those students. So when we talk about services, we first primarily decide whether it's going to help English learners, low income or foster youth students before we can decide to implement it, right? So this number down here at the bottom is our average daily attendance, which is quite low for us. Normally we're in the 19,000 range, but we have less students this year and then lower attendance rates. Here's some historical spending data on the next slide here. So the green-blue line is how much money we get each year for LCAP. You can see it's grown tremendously. In the beginning, Governor Brown didn't have enough money to give us for what he wanted. It took about 5 years to get us there. 50 million, I think, was the target. This was the year we hit it, 18-19. Common theme there. You'll see the red line is how much we spend. Most years it's just short of what we budget, which is good. But we do take that excess and rebudget it the next year. And so you'll see for this year, we have much more budgeted, about $71 million budgeted, even though we're going to bring in only about 63 million. Next year, we figure we can budget 69 million, even though we're only gonna have 64 million. The only problem with that is all this $5 million or $8 million here that's above the green line needs to be things that don't eat, right? No people. We don't want give any jobs with these monies because we can't sustain those. So this is all money that goes to sites, to one-time purchases like technology, cool stuff at the schools. Oops, next one, kind of a quick breakdown of where all this money goes. Most of it, again, people, right? So over the years, this is the salary of people in the LCAP, and it takes up a big chunk of it because, again, schools run on people. So for this year, we're expecting to spend about $10 million more than we have because of all those new positions that we did add, because this year we had more ongoing funds, which was awesome.